This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian.
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit, Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
This is the owner of All Korea Wrestling, Bryan fucking Leo. And you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today. The trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the owner of All Korea Wrestling, Bryan fucking Leo.
How's it going? Pleasure to be here.
I'm good. How are you today?
Doing very well. Just want to, if I can, plug the next All Korea Wrestling show that we're going to have. It's AKW Showdown 5. It's going to be June the 29th. It's going to be at our All Korea Wrestling Performance Center. If you're in the area in Seoul or round about that location, please stop by. Our show starts at 3 p.m. This is our typical house shows that we do monthly for AKW.
Okay, and is there a way people from outside of Korea can see it?
Yeah, so we actually used to do live streams, but we do our live streams usually at our larger shows now. So what we do is we record each show and then we release each match, like maybe 1 or 2 matches per week, usually a week after the show, typically. So if the show's June 29th, they'll get it like the week after.
Okay. And is that on YouTube? What are your platforms?
Yeah, you want to go to YouTube and search All Korea Wrestling. You can find us at Instagram at All Korea Wrestling. And if you Google search allkoreawrestling.com, you'll find us there too.
And where can we find you personally on social media as well?
Personally, it's bryanleo.akw, and that's Instagram. That's pretty much all I use now. It's too much social media nowadays.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Merchandise?
Say again?
Can we find merchandise?
Merchandise? What do you mean?
T-shirts, merchandise. Things to buy.
Oh, merchandise. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. So our merchandise is actually it's marple.shop/All Korea Wrestling. Whenever you go to our social media, we have all of the links attached. So it's linked on Instagram. It's on our YouTube channel as well as our website. That's kind of like the first thing you see when you get on the website.
Perfect. And you don't have to go looking for it. All of the links to all the promotion, social media, and Bryan's social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. You are the owner of All Korean Wrestling. Can you tell us about your promotion?
Yeah, so we started... how can I do it without making it too long? Our first show was...
You could go as long as you'd like.
Okay, all right. Well, the company started officially 3 years ago, but we did not officially have a show until August the 27th of 2022. Originally, I started the company in probably May. Yeah, actually May 22nd, today, actually. 2021. That's my birthday, actually. Today's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you so much. And by being the first foreigner in Korea to start a wrestling company, it was not easy. So there was a lot of obstacles and issues with getting commitments from the wrestlers, and a lot of bad stuff that happened during the beginning of that with politics and all of that. So we officially started August 27th. We had our first show, and it was a learning experience because at the time we didn't have a ring, so our show was in a boxing ring, and that was a really stiff ring.
Right.
But put on a good show. Eventually, we started running more shows in different locations. We've had festival events. We've had joint shows with like different local indie rock bands, and even shows in, I don't know if you're familiar with Korea. There's a place called Itaewon. I don't know if you know the location, but it's kind of like the foreigner area for South Korea. So we've had a lot of shows there, and then we finally opened our performance center, which was November of last year, and we've been steadily training wrestlers, running live events. We're actually the only company in South Korea to run multiple events this year. Like the other companies, I think there's one company that ran one show maybe 1 month ago. We've tried to run a show every single month, and we'll have another one at the end of June too. So doing pretty good, slowly but steady.
Hey, that's how you win the race, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned it. You're the first foreigner to make a promotion in Korea. In the world of pro wrestling, there aren't a lot of firsts. So what does it kind of mean to you to have that accolade?
Well, for me, it's not really an accolade. It goes to why I started the company in the first place. I thought that Korean wrestling wasn't really being maximized in terms of the talent and the opportunities that originally Korean wrestling companies had. They were kind of squandered. And I wanted to really give my best effort to try to create a company and actually promote South Korean wrestling. A lot of companies, they just focus on bringing in one big name wrestler, and they do one show or two shows per year, but that's not really a wrestling company. That's kind of, that's not consistent. I want to make it as close as I can to where it's an actual job, where kids, they have an option of, okay, do I want to be a baseball player? Do I want to be a pro wrestler? And it's an actual viable option. Right now, the way wrestling is looked at in South Korea, it's looked at as kind of a hobby. And I really think that South Korea they have the wrestlers in terms of talent pool. There's some really good guys. It's just a lot of missed opportunities. So for me, I have it like, oh, I'm the only foreigner who's created a company. I don't care about that. I just want to see if I can make a difference while I can. I mean, I live in Korea. I'll probably die in Korea. So I want to see what I can do here.
What did wrestling bring you to Korea?
No, not exactly. At the time, I'm from America. I was working as a social worker in America. I mean, I was wrestling, but also had my 9 to 5.
This is your job.
And it was a really stressful job because I work with kids who were suicidal. So I saw like a lot of really bad stuff. So I kind of wanted to get away from that kind of stressful job. So I have 2 master's degrees and a bachelor's, and I thought, well, what can I do that will allow me to travel and be able to make a decent income? I started researching, and I found that teaching was actually a great opportunity. So Korea wasn't the first place I went to. At first, I was in Thailand. I've been teaching in Japan, and also South Korea too, and a little bit in Malaysia. So wrestling didn't get me here. I kind of found wrestling once I arrived to South Korea.
Okay. And I'm curious because, you know, I've interviewed a lot of people from different parts of Asia. You'd be my first person from Korea.
Okay.
What is the crowd mentality? Is it like, you know, a Japanese crowd, or what? How do they view wrestling in Korea?
Not necessarily. I think that they're not really sure how to react. Most Korean wrestling fans, they grew up watching like WWE during the time when it was Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, like Ruthless Aggression era.
2002.
Yeah, around that time, and like 2010, like around that time. So you have those fans, and they'll do the "This is awesome" chants, and you know that kind of thing. And then you'll have your casual fans who are new to the sport, and they don't really know if they should cheer, if they should just be quiet and polite, because the Korean culture is to be very polite and non-confrontational. So you can tell some of them want to really react, but then they're afraid to. But the more that they attend and the more shows that they're watching, they kind of get into the program. I think if I was to compare, they're probably more similar to US, but like US light, not like Japan at all, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah. And most of them, oddly enough, they want to speak English half the time. so it's very different than in Japan.
Definitely. It does seem like Korea is maybe in the infancy stages of pro wrestling, not necessarily big yet.
Kind of. It's very tricky. So Korean wrestling has been around for over 50 years. I don't know if you're familiar with Riko Dozen, right? The pioneer of Japanese wrestling.
Yeah.
He's South Korean, actually.
Okay, did
So,
not know that.
yeah, he trained a few wrestlers when he moved back to South Korea, and they started a company. And the company was actually flourishing in the beginning time. And they were pretty successful. But a lot of things happened, and so that company kind of went under. At that time, it was like the 80s, probably early 90s. They had a really big opportunity, but wrestling kind of disappeared. It almost became like a little taboo, actually. So now the fans that are into Korean wrestling, they're kind of afraid to become committed to being a wrestling fan because they've been burned many times by other companies. There's a lot of toxicity and a lot of like really like just being the owner of AKW, there's things that I've put up with that I would have never imagined in a million years in any other situation, in any other country. But it's like there's a small pie in South Korea. You're not wrong about it being in its infancy, but you have many companies fighting over one tiny slice of pie instead of working together.
And do you kind of attribute that to maybe not a lot of knowledge of pro wrestling, or just, you know, their mentality when it comes to pro wrestling?
I think it's both. The problem is, just in my opinion, my personal opinion, the companies and the people that are in charge of the companies, they were never really officially trained by a pro wrestler who had been trained before. A lot of their training came from like watching it on TV, actually. So you have these guys who have never really been in the business. They don't know anything about the etiquette. They don't know anything about running a company, working territories, doing a loop, anything like that. So the way that wrestling is ran, it's ran kind of like, how can I compare it? If it's like two small like lemonade stands and they're trying to eliminate each other. It's really amazing to see.
That's an interesting analogy.
Yeah.
Well, we could probably talk about Korean pro wrestling all day, but let's kind of get back to all Korea wrestling.
Sure.
You mentioned, your performance center. Can you tell us about how it came about to actually making that a reality?
Yeah, so it was around, I think, maybe June of last year. We had a show, and what we usually did, well, first of all, we got a ring. We had the wrestling ring built in South Korea, and once we had the wrestling ring built, we did not have a facility to put it in. So whenever we would have a show, we would have to take it to the building, set up for the show. Show's over, break it down, hire a truck to come and get it. And then we would take it to like a little storage area at a farm. And we're doing this every single time. And it became very expensive. And myself and the other wrestlers, we're the guys who are actually doing the labor. And I'm an old man. I just turned 44. It's well, when you wrestle like 2 matches and then you have to do all the stuff, you feel old. So I was talking to, and just so you know, I'm the co-owner of AKW. I'm the original, I'm the founder, the original owner, but I have a business partner. So I was talking to my partner, Hayden, and I'm like, bro, we have to get a gym. If we don't, I don't know if we're going to survive, because the wrestlers now aren't like when I was a kid, when I was younger, and you did everything that you could just to be a part of wrestling. So they aren't very happy when they have to break down the ring and do the setup and all that stuff. It's a different culture and just a different, I guess, generation. So we started planning it out. I started making the designs, and we were able to get the funding at about the beginning of, or the middle of September. Then we found a location and we moved in October, and we were very, very happy to finally open the facility. And literally as soon as we did that, more politics and more issues. A lot of crazy stuff happened right after. But we're still here. We're still, plugging along. We do trainings every Saturday and Sunday. Actually, this weekend we're doing training and TV days. So it's like the production, like shooting promos, creating the vignettes and everything to promote the next upcoming shows that we're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not every day like an independent promotion actually has, an actual building that they could run out of. So what is that something you was aware of? Like, that having a performance center is an advantage in pro wrestling?
Well, we just wanted to have a home base. I think that was the most important thing. Like I said, whenever we would have a show, we would have to load up the ring and then just, take it and put it in a little trailer. And for me, so I was trained by Ivan Koloff and Chief Wahoo McDaniel, and a little bit by Harley Race, but like only seminars. So I was taught, you need to train, you need to work hard, you're never finished learning, and you need to constantly improve. And I thought my wrestlers, well, they need time in the ring. At any chance that they can get, they need to come to the ring and they need to practice and get better at the actual sport of professional wrestling. Without a facility, we can't do that. And not only that, we need new wrestlers. We need a new crop of talent, because one of the problems that we were having in the beginning, and still it hasn't really stopped, is the kind of egos and politics and a lot of issues with certain wrestlers that refuse to, like, I'm not going to lose to this guy, I'm not going to wrestle this guy. And it's not like America where you can just pick another guy. you have like 12 guys and that's it. So I'm like, okay, I got to train some new guys. I want to teach them the right way. I want to install this hardworking, humble attitude. And that's the only way that we can survive.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the event on the 29th.
Yeah.
Will you be competing? Because I did notice that you did break your foot recently.
Yeah, I broke my heel and my big toe and like little bone under my big toe.
Ooh.
But yeah, it's my fault. But I'll be back. I've started training since like 2 weeks ago. I'll be wrestling Ash Catalan. He's one of the guys actually who started training at the Performance Center. And he's coming along nicely. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, actually teaches Jiu-Jitsu in Korea. He has his own school. So I'm going to be working him. And we have another wrestler coming from, I believe, Singapore, John Day, if you're familiar with him.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and then, our other AKW wrestlers. It's going to be five matches on the card. Possibly 6 matches, which for South Korea, that's pretty good.
Hell yeah. That being said, what's something about promoting that you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
Probably that I don't know everything. I think this entire thing has been a learning experience. There have been things that maybe I thought, okay, this is absolutely going to work because it's worked everywhere else in the world. We can't go wrong. And then nothing. So I'm like, oh shit, I was really wrong with that one. So Korea is a different place. Wrestling is still like, they're still crossing that line where it's not taboo, you know?
Right.
And the thing about just Korea in general, and it makes it kind of impossible, people don't really get behind something in Korea until it's successful, which makes me wonder, like, how how can we become successful if people don't get behind it, right? So it's kind of like
a double-edged sword.
yeah. Either that way or money kind of solves everything, right? So it's just, if somebody sees, oh wow, it's popular, it's cool, okay, I'm gonna like it too. I want to be a fan now. That's kind of, you know, how it is here. I thought that if we put on interesting stories and we build the characters and we put on consistent shows, then people would just start to naturally gravitate to wrestling. And when I say, I'm not saying like we're failing, we're actually doing very well for 2 years, less than 2 years. I just thought we would be doing better in a faster pace. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you mentioned, you know, training new wrestlers, and I did notice, you know, your roster, no female wrestlers.
Believe me, I've tried. We had Alexis Lee. She came over. I know you interviewed her.
Yes.
A while back ago. She came over maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, something like that. And we had this one female wrestler, this one trainee that I was grooming to become a wrestler. And she just lost interest 100%. So, you know, you can do as much as you can, but you can't force someone to like become a pro wrestler. But it would be awesome if we could get, you know, more females to be interested, because they make a lot more money than we do with merchandise, pictures, and bookings. It would be an easier road for them in South Korea than it would be for like a bald 40-year-old like me. Yeah.
All right, so kind of put a pin in that for right now, and maybe a future Alexis Lee match.
That's what I was hoping for, actually. When she came, I was trying to either bring someone else in, but it couldn't work it out with the schedules, or work something out with the girl that we were training, but she, like I said, she just disappeared and there was nothing we could do. But maybe in the future. I like her a lot. She's really cool, actually.
Oh yeah, love Alexis. Shout out to Alexis.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your champions right now. Kim Moore is your current champion. Why?
Yeah, Kim. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, why was he the right guy to hold the championship right now?
So from a booking standpoint, what you do is you look for guys that are consistent and you look for guys that are hard workers. One of the problems that I had and that I've continuously had is when we're going to do a show, we have to promote the show. Fans need a reason to buy a ticket. They need a reason to be a fan. So as a wrestler, you have to do your job to promote and to make the fan want to come see you. And a lot of problems that I would have would be either they would not want to cut a promo, or show up for any kind of promotion. Like, let's say, for example, we're going to go to Seoul and we're going to hand out flyers and things like that, like boots on the ground, old school promotion.
Right.
He's one of the only guys that was consistently there. So that's number one. You got to have a hard worker. Number two, you got to have somebody who looks like a professional wrestler. He's got the long hair. He's got the gimmick. He looks like a guy who's a pro wrestler. And number three, you have to have a good hand, a guy who can actually work. And he's not the best technical wrestler. He's not a power guy, but he's consistent. He's got a good move set. He's very safe. I don't have to worry about him injuring another guy. Usually when we bring in a foreign wrestler, I book that wrestler against Kim Mir because I know I'm going to get a good match. Actually, we had Morgan Rose from Australia. He came into the last show, and they had a wonderful match. And both guys came out, no injuries, nothing. Everybody went home safe.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your first champion was Bum Soul, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
He vacated the championship. What happened there?
At the time, so Bum Soul's young. He's for Korea, he's young. He's 27 now. When I started the company, he was one of the reasons I wanted to start the company, because I saw somebody with potential, just he needed an opportunity. And at the time, very hard worker, just like Kim Mir. But I think the problem is, so with Korean wrestling, have you ever heard of like a senpai culture?
Yes.
Okay. Well, they have that in Korea on steroids. And sometimes those people will, out of jealousy or envy or whatever it is, they'll tell the guys things that they know is going to be destructive. But it's because they don't want those guys to succeed unless they're succeeding. So he was one of them. He got some really bad advice, and he wanted a lot more money than obviously we could afford. This is an indie company. This is not the WWE, and I work as a professor when I'm not, running the company. So it's not like I'm rich. And I told him, look, if you really feel like you're worth that much, go out and prove it. Go work for the other companies, go to Japan, do something. I'm never gonna tell someone they can't do it, but if we can't afford it, we just can't afford it. So we agreed to part ways. It's not like fired or anything like that. There's no contract. It's a handshake deal.
Right.
So we agreed, and I'm like, okay, do you wanna drop the title, or do you wanna vacate the title? Like, drop the title to give it up to a wrestler,
right,
or vacate the title. And he's like, I'll just vacate the title. So, okay. All right, let me figure out what I'm going to do now. Because I had already booked out like 6 months in advance of bookings and all this other stuff. And he's my guy. Like, in my opinion, that's the guy. That's the, like, Korean Otani or something, So I was really, like, I had all the chips in. Now he's back and he's working hard. And he's just gotta, he's gotta prove it now. I'm not giving things away anymore.
When he came back, was there a conversation that came with that?
Yeah, of course. We had many conversations before he came back. I like to sit down face to face, man to man. If you got a problem, let's talk it out. We can agree to disagree, or we can reach common ground. And we both agreed things should have been handled differently. And that's why he's here. And that's why he's working hard, you know. And he had an injury on the last show. So we're still waiting for him to be cleared by the doctors first. But it looks like everything's okay, but I want to make absolutely certain that there's no issues there before he comes back. But he should be here for the 29th show.
All right. Now, your All Asia champion is General June. Can you tell us about him?
Well, he's not the All Asia champion anymore. So what happened essentially is there was a match that there was going to be a tournament. We had Gustav, Dongshin, Bumsol, General June. Gustav was against General June, and General June won the match. Bumsol was against Dongshin. He won the match, and the winner of that match, they faced on the main event for the All Asia title, and then actually the Seoul City Championship, because I was the champion, but I vacated the title because I'm injured. I believe if you're injured and you can't work, give somebody else an opportunity. So they had a match at our last event, and Bumsol did a plancha, and he underjumped the plancha just by a little bit, and he kind of landed on his upper shoulders.
Ooh.
And he got kind of like a stinger, you know. So it's very scary. We stopped the show immediately, called the paramedics. We actually had two EMS paramedic vehicles come, one for Bumsol, one for General June, just for precautionary reasons. Brought him to the hospital. General was totally okay. But then Bumsol, he had to stay like for a couple of hours. We stayed there the whole time. I covered the medical cost, which is not fun for me because I'm not rich, but they're both okay. So currently now the two titles are vacant. Okay. And we're hoping that if Bumsol is cleared, he will face General June on the June 29th show, winner take all. That's going to be the main event, if they're okay. So General's cleared. We're just waiting one more week before we can officially announce the match. But funny story, General June is not actually supposed to be a wrestler. He is my business partner's best friend, and he became a wrestler because at our first show we were short one wrestler. So we're like, oh crap, what can we do? We don't have enough wrestlers. We're doing a tournament. I'm like looking online trying to see if I can find like a mask gimmick or something, and my business partner is like, well, my best friend is like 6'5", 400 pounds. I'm like, what? Really? Can I meet him? So we met, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna train you, get you ready for the match. It's gonna be really short. You never have to do it again. We'll get this match over. Thank you very much. He did the match. He was the most over wrestler on the whole show, and he fell in love with it. So he's been wrestling with us ever since. Wrestling and being trained by me this entire time.
That is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and he likes it a lot. He's become very integral to AKW's success. The fans really love the guy, which makes a lot of the other guys jealous because they're like, wait a second, we've been wrestling for 10 years and he just showed up. I'm like, well, welcome to the business. That's how it is.
He's got the gimmick, brother.
Yeah, he's got the gimmick. And actually the gimmick was, I'm looking, I'm like, okay, who does he look like? What can we do? And I'm like, okay, Big Boss Man, that's one. And you know Bad Luck Fale from New Japan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, let's get the military pants and let's just get a shirt, just black shirt, and see if we can find some glasses and like a cigar. Because there was a picture of Fale, like Google Images, he's smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's what we want. And yeah, we stole that gimmick. But he's a Korean general, so yeah.
It's completely different.
Exactly, completely different.
And I apologize for getting the champions wrong. Cage Match.
Well, it's okay. No worries.
Cage Match lied to me. Damn it.
That's okay.
Now, the one thing I found interesting was the tournament you had, the Master of 1,000 Holes. Was Jericho unavailable to make it to 1,004 holes tournament?
Master of 1,000 Holds tournament?
Holes, yeah.
Holes. Oh, yeah. This was at the beginning of AKW's existence. We were doing our best to survive in any way possible, so we were doing some bar shows. And there was one bar called the Rabbit Hole. It's like very famous Itaewon bar that's kind of how can I say in a nice way? Let's see. It's basically a gay bar. That's what it is. So
okay.
We booked the show, and I'm like, okay, how can we make it creative, tongue in cheek, and well, Malenko was one of my favorite wrestlers when I was younger. So Master of 1,000 Holds, Master of 1,000 Holes. Sure, why not? Jericho cost too much, and I don't know if Malenko would actually come to the show. So, we did what we could with what we had, but I did use an inflatable dildo during the match that I had, and it was a lot of fun. We're actually doing another bar show, not at Rabbit Hole, but it's Jesus. When is it? Let me see. Oh my God, I have so many messages. June the 15th, the Battle of Incheon, and this is it's a bar in Incheon. I can't remember the name. Oh, Liquor Burger. That's the bar.
Okay.
So if you're in Incheon, that's near the airport, near Seoul. We had a show there last year. They invited us back, and we're gonna have another banger on the 15th of June.
But currently, your Master of 1,000 Holes is Duncan.
No. It wasn't. There was no like match that was Master of 1,000 Holes. It was just like the gimmick of the show, like the title. Like Halloween Havoc.
Yes.
Basically. Yeah.
I don't know. It says on, like I said, Cage Match says he's the winner of the tournament.
Honestly, I think he's the one who wrote it for Cage Match. There wasn't a tournament. I'm being serious. There wasn't a tournament there. It was just a series of matches. No tournament, maybe 4 matches during the show. and just the entertaining stuff like drinking with the fans, kind of like chug contest and arm wrestling, things like that. Just interactive stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't really go on cage side very much, so I know that he was at a time. He no longer wrestles in Korea, actually. I know there was a time when he was writing with them, like,
Okay.
you know, giving the information and everything, but I haven't spoken with him since like January of this year.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's time for Bryan's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Yeah, sure. If it doesn't get me in trouble. Let me think. What's a funny one? I wrestled in, what is it, Eldon, Missouri? Eldon, Missouri, which is near where Harley Race he used to run and has his training center, training school and everything. So I'm wrestling there, and I'm going to be driving back to Illinois to do another show. So I'm going with a couple of wrestlers at the time, and we stop at a IHOP, you know, IHOP, like the International House of Pancakes.
Yep.
So we go there and we eat, and then there's like a little convenience store. So we just park there and we're just drinking outside, beer after beer after beer after beer. And I don't know how, but some people found out that we were wrestlers. So there was a couple of girls and a group of guys that came over. They wanted to drink with us. And this is when I'm really young. I'm like maybe 20 at the time. We'll say 21. That's the legal age of drinking. 21. And a big group of people come, like maybe 4 guys, 3 girls. They're drinking with us. And one of the girls is like, "Oh, you're really cute. Do you want to go home with me?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." Now, I'm really drunk, so my perception isn't very good. So I'm riding with her, and I'm in the back seat. She's in the front seat. Why? I don't know. I guess I'm just drunk and I sit wherever I can. We go to her place, and suddenly, like, I'm sitting down at the couch watching TV. She says I can have a beer, so I have a beer. And she comes out and she sits beside me, and she starts like trying to make out with me. And when she touches me, it feels like she has a hook or like a weapon or something. So I look and I find out, I see she doesn't have a hand. She had an actual hook. How did I not see that the entire time when I'm there with my friends, the wrestlers and all that? So I panic, and I'm 21, I'm immature. I panic. I go running out of the door. I have no idea where I am because I'm not from Missouri. I'm from North Carolina. It's like an apartment complex. So I start running out of the apartment, running out of the apartment complex with no tennis shoes, nothing, just my clothes. And at that time, there's no cell phone. So I'm running, trying to find a place so I can call my friends and see if I can get the hell out of here. But at the same time that that's happening, she's in her car chasing me down the entire time. So this went on for a good 20 minutes with her begging me to get back in the car and me full sprint, barefoot. I could just imagine, like, that's got to look like an episode of Cops or something, you know, like Redneck, Adventures of Redneckville or something like that. So I learned a valuable lesson. Don't talk to strangers. Don't get in cars with people you don't know. Make sure everybody has all their body parts, or at least make sure they announce that they don't have a body part. Don't just assume everybody has 2 hands and 2 feet. Might not be the case.
So, an encounter that maybe wasn't exactly rated R.
Yeah. It was rated R. Yeah, it was scary. I wonder what happened to her. Now I feel bad. Like, now that when I talk about it, when I'm older and everything, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty bad. But when you're 20 years old, 21 years old, and you know, you're just starting to experience life, it scared the hell out of me at the time. So I think I stayed away from like hanging out with the boys after that, at least for a year.
Well, you know, before going to Korea, you had some impressive encounters in the States as well. You wrestled the Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah, back in North Carolina, Wilmington.
I mean, one of the biggest tag teams of all time. What was that experience like?
So when I wrestled them, I think they were, to be honest, I think they were at their low point. You know, when the demons kind of get to you, essentially.
Okay.
Because I remember when I was a kid, I actually saw them work Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard in Wilmington, North Carolina. I went with my grandfather, and that was my first experience in wrestling. And my most memorable match was actually Rock and Roll Express versus Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, the Four Horsemen. So when I actually got to meet Ricky and Robert, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, to be honest with you. I thought that, you know, it's like don't meet your heroes kind of thing. You feel disappointed. And I know they're not bad guys now. I just think at the time it was a different time, a different situation. I was a young kid. I think I was like 20 at the time when we worked. No, shoot, I was 19 at the time when we worked. So I'm this young guy who wants to do a bunch of flips and a lot of cool shit. And they're like, we don't want to take any bumps, kid. You're going to take all the bumps and 5 minutes drop kick, go home. That's it. So it was a learning experience, because you learn, you know, that once you establish yourself, there are things that you don't need to do, you know?
Right.
So they were still over. Fans were still into it. But they didn't have to kill themselves just to put on a match. So looking back, it's a learning experience. The 19-year-old, I'm like, I hate these guys. I wanted to have I wanted a 5-star match, but nah, not in the cards.
Well, maybe you had more of a 5-star match with the Honky Tonk Man?
Same thing, buddy. Worse. So he was at least nice. He wasn't like, there's a lot of stories I would hear where he was an asshole and he would treat the young guys kind of like shit, and you know, like I used to be WWF Intercontinental Champion, blah 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 blah. He wasn't like that at all. He just went to the show and talked to the promoter. Promoter's like, okay, this is what you're doing. You're going to go work 8 minutes. You're going to, you know, go over with your finish. With me, it wasn't, hey, kid, what do you want to do? It was, hey, kid, this is what you're going to do. And I'm like, okay, yes, sir. Okay. Well, I mean, he's one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time. So if he tells me to do something, okay, I'm going to do it. What's the Jericho, the learning tree, right?
Yes.
I want to get under the learning tree of the Honky Tonk Man. Yeah, but he wasn't a bad guy. At that time, I was lucky enough to meet a lot of the WWF guys that were kind of too old to go back to the WWF because they were like the new generation, you know.
Yeah.
They didn't want like Tony Atlas or Honky or, you know, any of those guys. Even Jim Duggan at that time, because like it was just a different world. So we would get those guys as they're coming through like the Southern Territories. And they'd work their show and they just go somewhere else.
I gotcha. Well, you mentioned it earlier, you know, talking about the learning tree. I don't think the learning tree gets any better than, you know, Harley Race.
Yeah.
All-time great. What was your relationship with Harley, if you had any?
We didn't really have like a relationship. So at the time, like my first seminar I went to with him, so there was a time when he used to have Pro Wrestling Noah come to his training center. And this was actually Omega. Kenny Omega was there too with me, and Bobby Fish was also there. Maybe a couple other guys, but I don't remember like big names. I just remember those two. And we were there not really for Harley, which in hindsight, we should have been there for Harley because it's fucking Harley Race.
Right.
We were there for the opportunity to go to Japan. So basically it was like a 2-week seminar. You go there, you give it your best, you do the training, you're working. There was Marufuji and Kenta from Pro Wrestling Noah. They were running the seminar. And even Kobashi Kenta was there, but he was just like there. He wasn't doing anything. And a couple of like the talent scouts and whatnot. They actually passed up on Kenny. I think Bobby Fish is the guy who they chose. But there were a lot of really good wrestlers that went to that. And then later, I went like a couple of times just like independently to train in Eldon, Missouri. But at that time, Harley's like his body isn't good, so he can't really train you. So, you know, Trevor Murdoch from WWE?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was the guy who was like mostly doing like the training and everything on Harley Race's side. Or whoever they would bring in as their guest. They even had Johnny Ace that time too, but Johnny Ace, he was there for like 5 minutes. That was it. He went for the photo op of him and Kobashi Kenta. And then he said like a couple of words, "Oh, you guys, I see a lot of potential," and then gone on the next flight to New York or wherever.
People power.
Harley was, I mean, he's Harley Race. He deserves, like, he's earned the right to be an asshole to whoever he wanted to be. And we were in his facility. Everything is by his rules. And he has a particular way that he wants things done. You know, when you're younger, you don't understand it, but when you're older, you do. Like I do now. At the time, his psychology was very different from everybody else's. Like the guys who were coming in, these are guys that are kind of like really good at the indies and they just want to like take the next step. So when you're young, you're stupid. I guess I was one of those guys.
Now, well, obviously, you know, you're learning now what it was to be in the shoes of Harley Race, you know, as a teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, Wahoo McDaniels, one of the pillars that WWE was kind of made on. Did you have, any type of relationship with him as well?
Yeah, so Wahoo was my first trainer, but then he got sick. So when I first wanted to be a wrestler, in my area, he was actually the closest in terms of distance to like my house. We had Ivan Koloff, which was Belmont, North Carolina, or like near Charlotte, North Carolina. And then you had Wahoo, which Wahoo was Lumberton, North Carolina, or Pembroke. It's like a Indian reservation area.
Okay.
So he had like training, but it was backyard. He had a ring in his backyard. And I was there for only a couple of months because he got stomach cancer. At that time, he got really sick really fast. So he passed me on to Ivan Koloff. And after, like, when you're young and you just want to train, you don't like think, okay, he's got cancer. Maybe I should visit him. Maybe I should go there a lot. I want to just go train with whoever I can train with. So he passed away. And I felt terrible. And I started training with Ivan Koloff. But Ivan kind of, he was very religious. So he was a preacher also.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a lot of time. So it was spent between Ivan Koloff and another guy by the name of Dave Renegade. His name is Dave Register, but his wrestling name, Dave Renegade. He looks kind of like Bam Bam Bigelow, but with hair and a mullet. Big guy, biker gimmick. He owned a wrestling company called ACCW, Atlantic Coast Championship Wrestling. So I would split my training between whenever Ivan was available, because he would be doing preaching, all over America, basically. And between ACCW, both were like in the backyards of Ivan he had like a garage gym, and then Dave Renegade had a ring in his backyard. So I would go there 3 times a week to wherever I could go, either of those two. And from 16 to 17, I trained, and then I made my debut around 17 years old, either 16 and a half, 17, something like that.
Okay. Now, can you tell us about that time you appeared on JTBC Korea? JTBC Korea?
Can you describe it?
It was like
I've done a lot of things, It
was like a news segment about pro wrestling.
We've done a few. I think that one was for the previous company that I work for. The whole reason that I have a pro wrestling company now, like because of the issues with that company. It was kind of like they have, if I can compare the guy to maybe like Conan O'Brien or something,
okay.
Like Korea's Conan O'Brien. He's a comedian, and he does a lot of skits and a lot of like, he'll go to like a sport like basketball or something, and he'll do something with the players. It was essentially the same thing. We met, we had the makeup and all that stuff. And he interviewed us, but then we did like a wrestling match, kind of like showing off the moves that we do. And then he basically squashed everybody, even though he's not a pro wrestler and he's like half my size and all that. But I mean, it was a fun experience. You don't get to do that very often. But gosh, this was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I think.
I mean, it's always a cool experience when you're on TV, right?
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, we're trying to work some more of that stuff out now, but like more consistently. But yeah, it was a good experience. We've done like Korea Got Talent also with AKW, kind of like America's Got Talent. We only made it to the second round, so we don't have that much talent. And a couple other like little skits and things like the YouTube celebrities and all that stuff. Like I said, it's very niche. We're trying to find our place in the market. We're trying to find, what works and what doesn't work. And then, just keep improving from there.
Do you think we could see All Korea Wrestling on TV in Korea? Is
that's the goal. So I always like to make goals. I always like to make like a New Year's resolution and plan out 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, that kind of thing. And one thing is TV, I think, is crucial. It's absolutely critical for our company. But with television, you have to have financial backing. You have to have sponsors. You have to have somebody behind it who can push it. We can shoot it in our studio, but it's not going to look very good. It's not going to look like TV quality. However, I've already planned it out 5 or 6 times already. It's just getting the wheels in motion, getting the right people behind it. Actually, we have a meeting this weekend specifically for something like that. So fingers crossed that it works out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely go to the social medias to see what transpires for that.
Yeah, it'll be slow, but we'll do it. I mean, I want to have Korea's first cage match. Want to do that. That's in the works too. I want us to be the only company that actually tours. Oh yeah, so we're in the process. Of course I say it, and they're probably the other company's gonna steal it, but whatever. We're in the process of working out the first ever cage match in Korea. We had a casket match a couple of months ago. We had the first ladder match. We had the first tables, chairs, and ladder match in South Korea. So we want to have the first steel cage match in Seoul, South Korea. And I'm not sure if it dropped when I was talking about in Korea when they have wrestling shows, they always have it in one place every single time. And they don't, in America, we call it the loop, where you go from city to city, you do a tour.
Right.
So I want our company to start doing that, going from Seoul to Daegu to Busan, like all over the whole country of South Korea, and make it an actual, real, legitimate wrestling company with weekly shows all the time.
Hell yeah.
That's the goal.
And you did have Ho Ho Loon on your show one time, right?
Yeah, we had him a couple of times. So he was on our second ever show, less than 2 years ago. And he was at our March show. He actually wrestled Bum Soul. His Bum Soul's return match was the last show that Ho Ho was at.
I know Ho Ho has his is trying to make Hong Kong pro wrestling, big as well. So is there
Yeah.
like a partnership there between companies?
There's not a partnership. There's a friendship. We kind of cut from the same cloth. We're old school. We both know how it is to start a wrestling company and then kind of see it struggle with the issues that are created with just immaturity and things like that. So we kind of have a bond through suffering, I guess. so like when I have a problem, I'll usually talk with him and confide in him, just ask for some advice and kind of see if he's ever dealt with like a similar situation that I've dealt with, what he did, and that sort of thing. He is one of the talent agents for Dragon Gate in Japan. And we're not a partner, but like I said, it's a friendship. And, we like to bring in those guys as often as we can. But it is called All Korea Wrestling. I want to develop and build what we have in the core. But at the same time, I want to put on the best matches possible. And a lot of the best matches come from Dragon Gate. So happy to have those guys whenever they can come. And Ultimo Dragon, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I used to play him all the time on WCW versus NWO Revenge for the Nintendo 64.
That's
or
a throwback.
PlayStation. Yeah, man. And he was my favorite wrestler. Him and Yuji Nagata. So, yeah, love that guy.
That's the one where Kevin Nash tells you, "Don't pick me, pick somebody else."
Yeah.
All right. Can you tell us about the videos you've been doing recently? What people think of pro wrestlers?
Oh, so that is that's actually Hayden's idea. So, like I said, we're seeing what works, what doesn't work, trying to build our audience, trying to grow, and just to get as much attention as we can to the product of AKW. And one of Hayden's ideas is shorts, where we have to create as many shorts as possible. And comedy is always, well, it's easy and it's fun to do. And even though my character is like serious character, I love comedy. I'm a huge comedy fan. Like I love The Office, Blazing Saddles, if you know Blazing Saddles, Tropic Thunder. Like I'm a big comedy guy. So any chance that I can get to do something that is comedy, or have the other guys do some comedy, that's what we're gonna do. And we're, just like that skit is just we think there's the misconception, especially for me. I've been portrayed in Korea as this like just terrible asshole guy who's just angry all the time and fighting everybody, and it couldn't be any further from the truth. I'm a English professor for the military. My previous jobs in America, I was a counselor and a social worker. Like my job is to care for people. So I'm not like this terrible guy that I'm being portrayed as. So we're like, hey, why don't we just show what they think versus how I really am? So that stuff that like on the video, like drinking the tea with the heart cup and like singing and all that, that's how I am all the time. Like after I finish talking with you, I'm gonna play PC games all night until I pass out. So I'm still a kid.
Okay, so what are we playing?
Probably playing Arma Reforger, and I just downloaded Star Citizen. If you're familiar with Star Citizen, it's like space simulator, and maybe Gray Zone Warfare. If you've ever heard of that, it's kind of like Escape from Tarkov, but based in Vietnam. So it's a first-person shooter.
What's your go-to
video game?
Yeah.
Oh God, put me on the spot. I like Baldur's Gate, if you know that one.
Yes.
Ready or Not, which that's like tactical FPS. And if I just want to like chill out and not like have to think or anything, Starfield or Fallout, like Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Because there's so many mods, you can play it endlessly. So I'll play Fallout whenever I get bored. If I don't want to talk to people, I play Fallout.
Okay. Now, can you tell us about the Antonio Inoki clock?
Oh yeah, so I got that clock when I lived in Japan like years ago. There's a Japanese wrestling store, and for the love of God, I cannot remember the name, but it's in Tokyo. It's like the only wrestling store, I think, in Tokyo. They sell like the memorabilia. When I went in, they had like the Great Muta, like ninja entrance gear, Hulk Hogan autographed wrestling boots. I think even Andre the Giant autograph boots too.
Wow.
But that was really expensive. I couldn't afford that. But the clock was on sale. And I'm like, well, I'm living in Japan and I oversleep a lot. So why don't I just buy this? It's not what I wanted, because Inoki wasn't my favorite wrestler, like Japanese wrestler. I was always a big mark for Keiji Muto and Jusen Thunder Liger.
Oh, yeah.
And Masawa also. But I was never an Inoki fan. He was way before me. So, but the clock's cool. We still have it. It's at the AKWPC.
It's definitely a cool clock.
Yeah, I don't think there are many available, actually. I think it was something that was like very small amount of those clocks were made. And maybe that was the only one in the store. I could be wrong, but I didn't see any other like clocks there.
So
go ahead.
Potentially a collector's item.
Yeah, I should try to see how much it's for sale. Maybe I can pay rent. Yay.
But you were saying something, I cut you off.
Yeah, while I was there, actually, I bought the clock, and at the time, there's the Antonio Inoki restaurant, too, in Tokyo. So I went there, too, and they have, like, a larger form of that clock. But that's not for sale. That's just a part of the restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really cool. Very expensive, and the food was terrible, but it was wrestling stuff everywhere.
All right. Now I think it's time for the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
Oh God. First 3 songs? Well, I'm a huge David Bowie fan.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're familiar with 5 Years.
Yes.
Yeah, so 5 Years, that would be the first one. When I was a kid, I was a very angry kid. So Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of.
Okay.
That would be the second one. And then the third one, gosh, what is his name? I'm Yours by Jason Mars. Because even though I was that kind of a person when I was a kid, I'm completely different now. Like very laid back, very happy. I was actually the song of my wedding, the I'm Yours by Jason Mars. So just a good family song. That would be as I'm in the hospital bed and I'm dying. But it's a happy ending because I lived a good life, and the camera pans out to the window and it goes outside, and then you hit the Jason Mars I'm Yours song.
All right. And
Everybody's good.
And we know when the track is hitting as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you do the soundtrack first, then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays Bryan? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Oh, I would never play myself. God, who? I mean, I'm bald, so there's only a few bald guys. It can't be The Rock. He's too big. I guess, you know what? Because my wife would get a kick out of it. Vin Diesel. Because we always, me and my wife, we make fun of the Fast and Furious franchise. Just because it's so over the top and it's so outrageous. Just to make her laugh, it would be Vin Diesel.
Hey, no. Vin Diesel saved the Vatican from a bomb.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For family. Yeah.
Yes. Now that we have you casted, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you and your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
Okay. Who would play them would be hard, but let's see. First of all, my wife, my beautiful wife. Honestly, without her, there would be no Bryan Leo existing right now. There would be no Tim existing right now. So my wife, my son, Billy, he would be there too. Obviously, it's my son. I love him very much.
Right.
And my best friend, Red, Anthony, we call him Red because he's a ginger. That guy has been there through every bad situation in my life and been the only person that has never disappeared. And when it's hard, when it's difficult, he's there. That's a true friend. So absolutely those 3. With that being said, for Red, Conan O'Brien, because I can't think of any other gingers, but they kind of look alike anyway.
Okay.
My son, Billy, I don't know the actor's name, but do you know The Big Bang Theory, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what is it? Young Sheldon?
Yes.
Okay. The actor who plays Sheldon on Young Sheldon. Because they're actually a similar look, like brown hair and kind of, my son's very intelligent. I don't know where he gets it from. Not from me. So that kid, whatever his name is. And I mean, my wife is Korean. So whoever the most beautiful actress in Korea is, her. That would be the one playing my wife. Yeah.
Okay. And it's definitely sounding like a blockbuster, to say the least. And you could pre-order the tickets now.
Maybe.
Yes. 100%. Alright, on to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
It's not pizza. I mean, I'm sure pineapple's great by itself. Pizza's great by itself. You fuck it up when you put it together. So, I mean, you can sure, eat it, whatever. We can coexist. We can get along, but I will never. I tried it once, and it's not natural. It's like putting a raw steak on a chocolate ice cream or something. It doesn't go together.
Okay, so we are very anti-pineapple on pizza.
Extremely anti-pineapple. That's actually always a debate topic for my class whenever I'm teaching.
You're dividing the class.
Oh, yeah. That's my job.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
Well, I'm not really into Pokemon. I play more Power World than I know about Pokemon, actually. What's the turtle's name? You know the turtle? Isn't there
Squirtle.
a turtle? That guy.
Okay.
He only because he doesn't have hair, and neither do I. So I assume we would get along just fine.
Okay. Now, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Thug? THUG.
Wow. The acronym for thug?
Yes.
THG, maybe?
Would you like me to spell it out for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail, 'cause a dog can't spell.
Ah, gotcha.
Yes.
Did Tracy say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love
Sounds like something he would say.
Love the late great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive on the show.
Gotcha.
Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
I think it would be too stiff. If it was a gimmick Rock, sure, why not? But if it's a real, pointy, sharp, or even just hard Rock, probably squash match, but not a 5-star classic. There's not a lot that you can do with just a Rock.
Well, just for context, there is a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
What the fuck? I think if I was doing that with AKW, it's time to go ahead and close the company. So I'm wasting my time. Yeah.
Why? How do you think he felt he lost the match?
It's even worse. Well, I mean, that shows that he doesn't have ego. Put the Rock over. That's good.
Now, on a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully retired. That's one. I never intended to be in wrestling in my 40s, to be honest with you. I have a really good job as a professor. I have a happy life. The company AKW is a passion project because I really love wrestling and I want to try to see it grow. So in 5 years, hopefully the company is at least we're on TV and we're touring and we're known throughout the world, not just, in little tiny spots. and I'm, right now I'm the owner, but I'm the booker, and I'm the creative, and I'm the camera guy, and I'm this, and I'm the janitor, and a bunch of stuff. Hopefully I'm just booking the show, or I'm just a part of the administrative or whatever. I still want to be a part of it. I still want to have my imprint, but I want it to grow beyond me and just keep going. So hopefully in 5 years they don't need me. I really hope that.
Okay. And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what AKW is all about?
If I was to pick one match, I think the TLC match between myself and Hayden, my business partner, actually. This was in November, just before December last year. We had it. It was a joint show with AKW and Club Sharp. Essentially, it was called Punk Rock Wrestle. So we had a lot of rock bands doing live performances the whole entire day. And we were at, it's called the Hyundai Department Center. It's like this big arena area. And we did the show there. And it's the first ever TLC match. It was a completion of a storyline that took the entire year to build, and it created what is now the stories that are going right now with AKW. So it's a good entry point for anyone who they don't know anything about AKW, and you want to see wrestling not in terms of 5-star match, but in terms of storytelling and basically showing what AKW is about. I think that would be a good one. It was a very violent match. Hayden actually almost broke his neck. I did an awesome bomb from the inside of the ring over the top ropes to the outside through a table. And it was a rough bump for Hayden. Yeah.
Sounds like business partners getting some aggression out on each other.
Yeah. I felt really bad. Like every time I would do a crazy spot to him, I was like, oh shit, why am I doing this? Oh my God. And he was so scared, but he did a really good job, all things considered. So I compare it to like if you were to see Kurt Angle versus Shane McMahon, something like that.
I gotcha. And where can we find this match?
If you go over to YouTube and you search All Korea Wrestling, when you go to our home page, it's like one of the premiere matches. I think it's the how there's like one video that pops up as your representative video?
Yes.
Yeah, so like that. If not, it's like right there. It's one of our most watched videos too.
And I'll make it even easier. I'll find it on YouTube, and I will put a link to the match in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom. This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Sure.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Ric Flair.
Worst wrestler.
Our current wrestler, AKW Dongshin.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Oh, it's got to be The Rock.
The Rock or the physical Rock?
It's got to be the People's Champ. Actually, I was the final boss 6 months before The Rock decided to become the final boss. But it's The Rock. What am I going to say, right? So we will fight for the right to have that name as our name.
I mean, make it a triple threat. Miko Sakamura was the final boss like a couple years ago.
Oh, there you go.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
You mean like band or wrestler?
The wrestling themes.
A wrestling theme. Shit. I guess. Triple H. Play the game.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is
dying or already dead. Kayfabe is needing a comeback.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast.
It does, yeah.
Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
Oh. It's got to be vegetable because it's not sweet, right? And isn't it from the ground, right? So it would be vegetable.
It is indeed a fruit.
Well, that sucks.
It has seeds. Tomato logic.
Oh, okay.
Yes. New Japan wrestler Taichi. His ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I don't think it's the butt cheek. I think it's more of the belly. I think the reason his gear is getting shorter and shorter is because his belly is getting larger and larger.
Yes.
So the end result is, you have to keep pulling it higher to kind of cover your gut. So as you do that, you get more ass cheek, But I like it old school. I like those like old hacksaw Jim Duggan, like grandpa like tights that he would wear, where it looks like the tidy whities, old school tidy whities. Yeah, like that cut, but just in form of wrestling tights.
Okay, so full coverage.
Full coverage. You can't guess where anything is.
Okay. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
Oh, never. No. I love his work, but as a guy who's currently injured right now, might want to work a safer style just for longevity. Yeah, but in Korea, no one speaks to each other when they're in the market anyway. It's kind of like rush hour traffic. Basically, you get in, get your shit, get out. That's it. That should be a Darby Allin match. Get in your shit, and then get out.
And that is the correct answer.
Yeah. Well, at least I got something right.
And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for your time. It was good to spend part of my birthday with Wrestling with Entertainment. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And we're so happy to have you on your birthday as well.
All right. Thank you.
And once again, can you tell us where we can find all things all Korean pro wrestling on social media?
Absolutely. So if you go Instagram at All Korea Wrestling, our YouTube channel, All Korea Wrestling, and then you can search allkoreawrestling.wixsite.com. That's our official website. And I think we're on TikTok. but I have somebody else doing that, so don't quote me on that. Yeah, but you'll find us primarily Instagram and YouTube.
Okay. And you don't have to even type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media and the promotion social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Give him a damn follow. And if you're in Korea, buy a damn ticket.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Any little bit helps.
Absolutely. Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, but on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us tomorrow as we interview Reign Victoria. And join us every Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews. Follow the show at Wrestling with E, but on X, Thread, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say Wrestling With, you say entertainment, okay?
Sure.
For our very special guest Brian Leo, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling With
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.